Hello, I'm back, and as you can see, I have a beard now. If you've seen any one of my videos, then you probably know that that's what I like doing, making videos for my YouTube channel. I make videos based on anything I have ideas for. But lately, I haven't been doing that, and there's been a reason for it. It's because of something that's been happening in my life that's been leaving a bad impression on me. And I'm making this video to talk about it. If you know me, then you probably know that I work in a movie theater called The Bridgeway. If you haven't heard of it, then allow me to fill you in. It's one of those small, fancy, independent cinemas. It plays stuff like art house movies, independent movies, foreign movies, the occasional blockbuster, and everything else in between. And while we're on the subject, I'm going to recommend this theater to you because it's a pretty good theater. Whenever I tell people about myself, I usually tell them that that's where I work. I've been working there for about 2.5 years now. I'm basically the cleanup guy. I pick up trash, I wipe down the poster boxes, clean the cinemas, the bins, that sort of thing. Now, I actually don't mind having to do that, nor do I mind working at this theater. But ever since I started working there, it adds problems. The biggest one being that I have to take this lengthy and expensive bus route in order to get there. The Bridgeway Theatre is in Northcote. I live in Point Chevalier. I have to take 2 buses to get there, and those same 2 buses to get back. And the whole thing costs an overall $11. And this is on top of the fact that to this day I'm still getting paid minimum wage. So I'm not getting paid very well from the theater, and I have to chip off some of that payment to get that payment. It's about as annoying as it sounds. Now the good news is, I have kind of fixed this problem. Recently I've had my work shift moved to Friday, which is a day where my mum is free at home and actually can take me to the Bridgeway. Here's what I've decided to put in this detail of the story. There have been attempts at trying to change up my work at the Bridgeway to make up for the expensive bus ride I have to take. The first attempt was me doing movie reviews. My first attempt was me doing video reviews for movies that were coming out at the theater. The idea is that they were supposed to be advertisements. It went like this. I go watch the highlighted movie that would be playing there, I would write up and shoot the review, and then I'd send it to the Bridgeway. When I got there, my boss would upload the video to the Bridgeway's YouTube channel. The benefit that I was getting was that watching the movie and making the review would count towards my working hours. So that's what I was doing for them for the next few weeks. In fact, go to the Bridgeway's YouTube channel and the first videos up there are my reviews. At first, it was great. I was doing something that I enjoyed, I was getting paid for it, and even getting praised for it. That's when it all started going downhill. Now, before I continue, there's something I'd like to stress. My boss is not a bad guy. He's clearly passionate about movies, he's good to talk to, and just an all-around cool person. But, for some strange reason, he stopped uploading my videos. I know there were some people out there who were enjoying my Bridgeway reviews, and if you're wondering why I stopped making them, I didn't. I was still working on them. The weird thing is, for the longest time, he wouldn't tell me why. Yeah, that was a good idea. Keep the guy who's giving your theater publicity in the dark. I was still making video reviews, and I was still sending them to the Bridgeway, but they weren't going up on the channel. It was becoming frustrating making something and not having people see it, but having to make it anyway just for that little extra bit of payment. This went on for months until finally my boss actually did tell me what the big deal was. I can't remember the exact reason, but I think the main problem was the videos were getting copyright strikes from other companies. To this day, I'm still not so sure if my boss was being completely honest with me. If they were getting copyright strikes, then was there any reason to not tell me about it? In fact, my dad actually had a good theory about the situation. I was being too honest with my reviews, so my boss stopped uploading them. Anyway, after he told me this, I decided to stop and try thinking of something else. That was when my dad had an idea. What if instead of doing reviews, I did summaries for the Bridgeway? where I do a very short review of what was coming up around the time. That sounded like a good idea. I went to my boss, pitched in the idea, and he thought it was great. So I started working on that instead. I'd make very short videos summing up all the movies that were coming out around the Bridgeway at the time. And thankfully, these videos were being uploaded. If you're friends with me on Facebook, then chances are you've probably seen them. However, these had the exact opposite problem of the movie reviews. They were being uploaded, but nobody was watching them. The only people who were watching them were my friends on Facebook, but even when they were watching them and liking them, I'd be lucky if they'd only get like a dozen views. My dad was helping out by sharing them on his Facebook page, but even then, that was only marginally helping. And on top of that, regardless of whether they were getting views or not, they weren't bringing any publicity to the theater like they should have been. I do remember going to my boss and asking him to help bring them more publicity, but I can't even remember what he said. I think he said he was going to help, but it never happened. This went on for the next couple of months as well, and it got to the point where I was starting to hate making these videos. Every time I'd sit down in front of this computer, I'd feel this twinge of reluctance. I'd write up the script, I'd shoot the video, I'd be practically forcing myself to do something that only took me 20 to 30 minutes to make. I'd be putting less and less effort into making the videos, and the reluctance grew and grew, until finally I just hit a boiling point with it. I went to my boss and told him that I didn't want to make these videos anymore, but he had another idea. I go back to making video reviews, but instead I'd make them with a bias. Like, no matter how I felt about the movie, I'd still have to say positive things about it. So I agreed to do that. I actually did make one video, and then I stopped right there. I just didn't feel like making these anymore. This is why I haven't been using my YouTube channel that much, because I've been going through this creatively draining ordeal. I didn't feel enthusiastic about it anymore, I didn't feel passionate about it anymore. It was actually beginning to have an effect on my mental health. It just wasn't good for me. And when you get down to it, there's really nobody to blame here. Like I said, my boss really isn't a bad guy. It's just been this one thing that I don't feel like I can trust him with anymore. But, despite all of that, this story does have a good ending. The other day, I went to see my boss, and I told him that I simply didn't want to make videos anymore, and he was really cool about it. So, I'm continuing to work at the Bridgeway, but I'm not making videos for it anymore. It does mean that my pay has been reverted back to normal, but with how I was feeling towards it, and with how it was making me feel personally, just seemed like the best choice. And besides, earlier in the video I mentioned that my mum can take me to the Bridgeway now, so that's one little problem solved. So, there's why I haven't been using my YouTube channel that much anymore. I've been going through this long event that's been sucking out my enthusiasm for video editing and video making. And as for this thing you're watching right here, I'm making this video in order to vent out these frustrations. I hope in time I can pull myself together and start making videos the way I want to again. See ya.